Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Squad Goals. I'm your boy, Sir, CEO 2020 Podcast, and I got my compatriots here, and I got a couple of guests today. And so I want to give a huge thank you to our two guests today, Ms. Zadora Williams, who joined us. What up, girl? And we got author lovely Banks in the building. Two poets in this bit. I'm going to snap it up for y'all. All right. So the topic today was actually a topic I stole from Miss Banks. From Miss Banks' Facebook page, Hypersexuality and how it relates to trauma. I really wanted to tackle this one. At first I didn't, I'm not gonna lie, because I knew this is kind of a transparent, intimate topic, but being the advocate for transparency and being open, I felt like this should be a topic that we should be able to break that curse of keeping in-house and just expressing it. So I know a couple of you have actually told me you felt that you haven't experienced this. So you were wondering if you needed to sit on the background for this. I felt absolutely not. I think any opportunity to educate each other and share an experience that could possibly save a life is worth it. That was hilarious, Malcolm. I did see you drop that chip. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So not to put you on the forefront, but I love to let our guests speak first. So Ms. Banks, would you love to kind of just share your thoughts on hypersexuality and what you think how it kind of relates to trauma?
So for me, I was raped at the age of 9. I'm very open and honest. Raped and molested by a family member. And that created a bunch of different things in me. First of all, it created me, I started having sexual thoughts that I didn't quite understand. My body started being opened up to things. I started feeling things that I didn't quite understand. It made me confused with my sexuality. And as I got older, those thoughts started to turn into almost like fulfilling a need. It messed with my relationships, where I would have, so even now, let me just break it down. Like even now, I still have urges to fulfill sexual needs that are tied to my childhood. I still sometimes feel like that little girl being introduced to sexual wants before understanding what sexual was. I personally feel like when trauma introduces you to things too soon, those things affect relationships, the yin yang. I don't even know how to have a decent relationship with a man. It always feels like it has to be a sexual relationship with a man, because that is my only tie to a man. It came so soon as like, okay, me as a child being introduced to sexual stuff too soon by a man in my family. And then growing up, I've never had a non-sexual relationship with a man because I was introduced to things so soon. And now me in my adult life, trying to combat that way of thinking and be like, okay, not every man is attracted to me. Not every man wants something sexual from me. But I find myself flirting and being sexual and thinking sexually and thinking a man wants something sexual from me because that's how a man was introduced to me. So for me, hypersexuality does definitely affect my relationships, and it affects my relationships with men. Because I noticed today, I was watching my guy I just met. He's kind of like a friend. I watched him interact with his daughters. And the things he did with his daughters, I thought was low key like, oh my goodness, is this molestation? Is this sexual? Because I haven't quite figured out how to separate sexual actions from just a relationship between father and daughter. everything looks sexual to me. Everything looks more perverted to me. Because my thought process, my urges, my everything is involved around this is sex, or a guy because he smiles at me or he gives me a compliment, it's sexual. He wants something from me. And whether I give it or not is up to me. And do I want to give it? And then sometimes that can turn into me being promiscuous because it's almost like that's all I'm good for. So it affects everything, hypersexuality. It really does.
Whew, that was a hell of a mouthful. One thing about this platform, Ms. Banks, is we appreciate transparency. Like, we advocate it through and through. No matter how ugly or disturbing it may be, it's just the fact of being that open creates that lane of communication that, like we said earlier, can save a life. So I'm just want to take a
Adolescent Adults is a hilarious podcast. It centers around pop culture, love, relationships, anything that pertains to the millennial life. Adolescent Adults is hosted by Mariah Lynn and BJ Hoke, and they bring you new, fresh content every single week. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and SoundCloud. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Adolescent Adults Podcast.
moment and just tell you thank you for sharing that, because not a lot of people are that strong to admit it and to openly admit that, yes, this has affected my view to this day. So it makes me realize that this is an ongoing process. It isn't just something that you just conquer and, get over. It sounds like a day-to-day thing.
It definitely is. I would have, and I'm just going to be open and honest, because when I first had my first son, it wasn't as bad. The intrusive thoughts wasn't that bad. But with my second son, I did not understand why certain thoughts just started to come forward. Things that were in my subconscious. It's almost like I was a little child and I was attracted to people that were way younger than me. These are thoughts that were planted as a seed as me being a child. And I used to feel very like I'm a predator or something like that, because I had no control over my innocence. I had no control over that. And people think that something's wrong with you, you're weird, you're this and that, because you're having thoughts like the person that raped you and took your rights away. And that's why people need to know that this is a normal thing. And I'm saying that this is something normal for someone that has been raped and molested as a child. And you to grow up and fight those thoughts of doing the same thing that was done to you. That's something that's real. And a lot of people need to know that's not, that you're not weird. You're not crazy. You're not this and that. It's just something your body was introduced, your mental was introduced to before your mental was ready. And I get counseling for all of that. And my counselor had to tell me, hey, no, this is normal. People like R. Kelly went through stuff like that. He was, and if more people say, hey, these thoughts are normal, more people will get the help, because we don't want to create more people that are raping, molesting children. We want to normalize, hey, this is normal for you to think that way. Hypersexual thoughts, they're actual people are out here going through those things. And if nobody ever knows that this is not something that you go through, then where's the gap going to be closed and people actually go get the help? We're creating more people that rape and molest people. Then we're creating a cycle. Then we're creating generational curses all over again. So people just need to know that that's normal. I had to break free of that and know that, hey, I'm not crazy. I'm not a molester. I'm not a rapist. It's just thoughts that I fight on a day-to-day basis. And if I didn't know that, hey, went to get counseling and said, hey, this is normal, then where would the generational cycle stop?
Right. Malcolm, you look like you had something you want to ask.
Why do you think people don't want to make it normal? or say or accept that it's normal?
Because they want us. I feel, this is my opinion, I feel like people like for it to not be normal. People like to put a label on somebody. I feel like it's all about labels. If we don't normalize it, like, a lot of people are even afraid to admit that they actually go through this. You'll be surprised how many people have been raped and molested, how many people have these dark thoughts, and they rather keep it in the family, or they rather, we strong, we black, we strong, we just keep living. But you're not really living to your potential because you're holding stuff back. You're causing your health to decline because you're holding on to all this stuff that could be talked about, could be discussed, could be navigated, could be ridden of your subconscious, but you choose to hold on to it because you want to seem like, I don't go through that. You weird. We always want to give somebody else a label. You're weird. Something's wrong with you. And then that creates a cycle of insecurity in that other person. Because I know for me, I was just like, why do I have to go through this? There are many nights I cried because I'm like, something's wrong with me. How could I have had these thoughts about my kids? How could I have these thoughts about people? It affected me. And this to a hypersexuality affects your jobs. For people that work as teachers, because I used to work as a teacher, I found myself having thoughts about kids that were closer to my age. It's still wrong. I'm 25 and I was in middle school, high school, having thoughts. That's still, if you act on those thoughts, you're still a pedophile. You know, so you just have to realize you got to be comfortable within yourself. You can't be ashamed of what you go through, those thoughts and stuff like that. Like, a lot of people can't take what I tell them. A lot of people can't take it. My husband, soon to be ex-husband, there was a lot of things he couldn't take, but I'm just open and honest because I feel like that released that control it had over my life. If I'm open and honest with you and don't care what you think about me, and if I'm even helping like one person to know that this is normal and just get the help, then that's fine with me. Because at the end of the day, I can't help what has happened to me, but I can help who I become.
Zadora, look like you had a statement.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about, because I recently read an article about people who actually work with pedophiles, and this article was telling that the reason why I feel that people don't want to normalize it is because people think that if we normalize the thought process and the mental issues, we're going to normalize pedophilia, which I feel normalizing getting help for those urges and those thoughts is different than, we're not going to say, okay, you're normal, we're going to provide you a child, or you're normal,
No. Mm-hmm.
we're going to see what you're going to do. People are stuck in a box. People don't realize, like Lovely was talking about, how is, how they say hurt people. It's all a generational thing where your mental, your psyche is your sexual psyche, your sexual desire is shaped and is formed. Nobody inherently thinks this way. And most people who were abuse other people. And I think that's where the biggest thing is, because I've told people I've wanted to work with pedophiles and they're like, ugh. I'm like, no, people have to be able to get the help to understand. People need to stop sweeping stuff under the rug. We have to stop saying, okay, we're gonna just keep this particular uncle, keep him away from the children. No, we need to get rid of this uncle, get this person the help, versus trying to keep the child away or focus so much on what the child, especially like when they said, well, little girls, you should watch what you wear because men in the house, things of that nature. No, we need to figure out why this man is in the house if we feel that they're going to be a threat. We have to take the focus off what the child is doing, take the focus off what happened. We need to take the focus off, okay, this happens to this child. We need to stop trying to find out what the child did and focus on what that person did and what was in their psyche. And like Lovely said, normalize getting help. Because if we are not able, because I've seen this too many times where
the mother and the husband is bothering the child, and the mother, because I used to work for a group home, the mother would put the daughter out the house to keep the husband instead of getting the daughter the help and getting. I've seen this with my own two eyes. I won't say where I worked at, but I saw this a lot. And I think that's what we need to normalize, getting the child help, as well as, instead of course, they need to be in prison, but when they're in prison, they need psychological help, or when they get out, they're going to do it again.
Yep.
So what?
Pardon?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like, you know, how when people are addicts and beforehand people were just not admitting it, or, you know what I mean? Because it's not treating it as a disease, but as kind of like that scarlet letter. And I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to anything sexual, I think sometimes, especially when it comes to mental health, you know, it's only been a couple years, you know, a couple decades that they have really started diagnosing like sexual mental diseases, you know what I mean? Where people are addicted to, you know, sexual, you know, like pornography and being sex addicts. So I think sometimes, I mean, as a culture and as a community, I think we just need to kind of get to a point where we address the disease and help the person, you know what I mean? Because right now I think we get to a point where we chastise the action, but we don't understand the why behind it. So like we're working to fix the symptoms, but not really fix the disease, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It does. It's like we're more comfortable with identifying it than fixing it. So I feel you 100%. Which is kind of uncomfortable. It's like we put all this money into identifying the people, but we really don't care if they get better. I was doing some research on hypersexuality, and I'm just going to read a couple of the like definitions to give kind of some clarity here. Hypersexuality and compulsive sexual behavior is a disorder or sexual addiction in a way. It's an excessive preoccupation with sexual fantasies, urges, or behaviors that is difficult to control and causes you to distress or negatively affects your health, job, relationships, or other parts of your life. Sexual addiction can be considered a process addiction, opposed to like substance addictions. Whereas similar to gambling or binge eating or compulsive spending, the sex addicts typically spend a much greater time engaged in the pursuit rather than the activity. So it's like a high in the thought of it rather than the actual doing. So
Thrill of the hunt.
Exactly. And the thrill of imagining the thing. So that was a complete shock to me because I never looked at it in that light. So it definitely has to be warped by personal experience, and just reading that it can cause you, like Lovely said, like a personal stress that can manifest physically, you know, in your emotions at work and things like that, and essentially affect how you live. So, Lovely, I guess my question is, at what point did you identify that, you know, this has to stop, this I need to address and get resolved?
Last year I finally became unashamed of it, because people would tell me when I would try to discuss it, because I'm a very open person. So when I'm going through something, for it not to affect my anxiety and my mental space, because I would have mental breakdowns because I knew these thoughts were wrong. It happened to me. And these thoughts, let me tell you, these thoughts didn't start coming into my head until my adult years. So I was able to suppress those thoughts, suppress that whole part of me, and move on with my life. But when I had somewhat of a mental breakdown, those thoughts started coming forefront. Any type of stress, any type of everything just started coming forefront, and I started discussing it with people that were close to me. I started with my mom. I said, Mom, I'm having...
What's going on, everybody? This is Malcolm from Fandoms Anonymous. We are an amazing podcast where we are all over social media, such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and more. We talk about all of your geeky and nerdy news from comic books to TV shows and the movies. And we also get to the nitty-gritty local and community news and Hollywood news in our new series, The Conversation Series. We also interview people from all over the country on the 101 series presented by Fandoms Anonymous, and we get to know who they are and what they do, from business people to singers to actresses, actors, and more. We hope you guys will take a listen to our content, and we will see you guys in another video.
I'm having thoughts about my kids, and it's really giving me anxiety. It's really... And she was like, what? And I changed the subject just that quickly because I knew it wasn't going to be accepted there. And then I went to my husband and try to having the thoughts with him. He's like, I can't hear that. But I wasn't saying that I would do the things. I'm saying, hey, can you help me combat these thoughts? I know I wouldn't do that, but it was almost to the fact where I wanted to kill myself to stop those thoughts because I knew those thoughts were wrong. And everybody else that I went to made me feel even worse about those thoughts. Like, everybody has some thoughts. You should just push forward, get over it. And then when I started, that's when I said, hey, I need to find someone. I need to go talk to a counselor that could understand me, that actually has the training, that actually has the mental stability to understand what I'm saying, and there's no judgment. And that's where I decided to get the help, because it was for me, it was life or death. I could not deal with having those thoughts about my kids or having those thoughts about other people's kids. There was one point in time it got so bad to where I didn't even want, because I was a teacher, I didn't want kids hugging me because I had those thoughts. And having a thought to me felt like I was thinking about it. It was just hyper. It was out there. And it was all triggered by me encountering that person that raped me, or me reliving my trauma again. It just made me feel like I'm stuck as a high schooler, or I'm stuck as a middle schooler. That's where my body was, stuck as a middle schooler, and I'm being attracted to my students, you know? So, I mean, I couldn't personally live like that anymore. And I had to go get the help because people don't see that as normal. People see that as crazy. Even if you having the thoughts, you gone, you done. You need to either end your life or you need to admit yourself somewhere. That's just the view people have on it. But they don't realize this is something that people struggle with, and they're not crazy and they're not weird, and they can't help that these things have happened to them. They're just living in a world that they had no control over. So I decided to get the help last year. I decided to be very open with my counselor, because I realized that I can't be open with people that supposed to love me.
I think it's interesting that this happened in family. And, you know, we're supposed to, I'm not going to say we can, but we're supposed to be able to go to family with anything. But when it comes to topics like this is where the room gets silent, you know. This is where stuff gets repressed. And so I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a victim of molestation. And Watt has been my best friend of 15 years now. I didn't come and talk about it until I think it was like my 27th birthday. We was sitting down drinking, and I just let it out. I just went ahead and told him. Like, it was one of them things that was uncomfortable, but at the same time, I didn't want to be burdened by it anymore. And so if there's anybody I could really tell anything to, it's that man. So I did. And slowly but surely, I started talking more and more and more about it. So I agree with you. It did create an urge for me in a different manner. This occurred when I was around the age of 6, and I was at a babysitter's house. Spent the night because my folks, went out, and an older gentleman, was around, and it messed me up. And the crazy thing is, the thing that triggered it for me wasn't even like a sexual act. I smelled a scent. It was a cologne that I smelled, and it just hit me. And my girl at the time, we weren't on the best of terms, and I just couldn't talk about that with her. So I wholeheartedly understand what you're talking about your soon-to-be ex-husband. I do apologize. Unfortunately, due to the conditioning of families, some people aren't prepared for the reality of this situation and how common it is. So I hate it, but at the same time, I mean this with the utmost respect. I'm kind of glad it happened so that you can grow from it. So now, if you do pursue, a marriage or a relationship outside of this, you'll need somebody that's strong enough to be able to handle this. I'd much rather know if my significant other can really handle all of me, like that complete and utter honesty, the naked me. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. It may be painful. And again, if I'm stepping on any toes or anything, I humbly apologize.
You're actually not. You're actually not. I actually agree with you, because I used to think something was wrong with me. Because my trauma created a whole bunch of stuff: anxiety, depression, not being able to, like you said, hypersexuality is just mostly thoughts. But for a person, we actually, me personally, I'm gonna speak for myself, hate sex. It's only because I feel like that's the only way I'm needed. But I mean, it's almost like, like my husband never used to get, like in the beginning, I used to cry because it took me back through my trauma all over again. And when he became that person that no longer loved me and no longer, I feel like, accepted me for my whole self with anxiety and depression, I started crying again at the end of our marriage, because it just felt like another person that was taking my essence, ripping a part of me without me being wholly into it, So I definitely agree. Yes, it is very painful right now, but I do agree with someone will be able to accept all of me, because I can't run from this person. I can only talk about it. I have good days and I have bad days. This is an ongoing process. Yes, you get counseling, you go to counseling to get coping mechanisms, but you never forget that trauma. I can't tell you how many days I've went in the shower bathing myself. Scrubbing, because a part of me was taken at such a young age. And I have moments where I still feel dirty, where, like you said, a smell can throw it off. It could be the cologne that person had on when they molested or raped you. It can be a time of day. It can be the air, the wind blowing beside, like when you were raped. All that is triggers for me, and a lot of people don't get it.
Ooh, yeah. Come on, Dora.
I understand exactly where you were coming from, because I've dealt with that too. I didn't get molested or raped when I was younger, but it happened more in my teenage years and up until my early 20s. And I completely understand where you're coming from, especially when it comes with partners, because your partner has to learn that even though there can be some good sexual aspects that come from people who are hypersexual and have trauma, there are certain things that are like, oh, okay, this person loves to have sex, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff people don't talk about. Because I'm so sorry about that.
You good?
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. But but what I was saying is like it affects your relationship, your consenting sexual relationships, because I could be having sex with my husband and I don't know, it's like my mind will disconnect because when I was going through what I was going through, and this was a repeated process with the same person. So my body would just shut down and I would just be like, okay, it's going to be over soon. And sometimes
it's your boy Contra and your boy DJ Big Dream.
And it's your boy Eternity. What happens when a content creator, a DJ, and an artist from the bottom of the map come together? Find out every Monday as we discuss the latest news in movies, music, media, and more. It's the South Got Something to Say podcast. Tune in now on your favorite podcast app.
I can be in the middle of having consenting lovemaking with my husband and my mind will get a thought and my body just shuts down. And it's like we can go from having an amazing time to me just like, okay, don't touch me. Just leave me alone. And that's something that a partner has to understand, that sexual trauma, like you said, like you all talked about how anything can trigger it. It doesn't, like I was talking about, it doesn't even have to be a smell or anything. It could be your own thought. Something in your mind can come through and it'll make you think about that. And that's what happened to me. And a lot of people, I've had partners who couldn't handle that, who didn't understand that. It's like, why are you rejecting me? They would get offended. And it's like, no, it's just a part of me. And it's like you said, you can get therapy, you can take all the medication, you can do whatever you want. But at the same time, that trauma is never going to change. It's always going to have happened, and it's always going to be a part of you. And it's something you have to learn to deal with. And that's one of the things. I don't like to disclose what I went through extremely early in a relationship, but I just lay it on the table like, okay, this is what we're going to deal with. Sometimes I feel, and the person who understands and are able to deal with it, I feel like that's almost part of the healing too. Somebody who understands your boundaries. Because like now with the person I'm married to, if I'm like, I can't do it anymore, he's like, okay, nope, we're done. It's like immediate stop. Versus somebody who's like, okay, well, just let me finish. That type thing. Mm. Yeah, I've been there before too.
So when attempting to date, then I want to go to that. When is the appropriate time to bring this up, to let them know? And also, how do you bring this up in conversation? Katie?
Sometimes I can be too open. That's my thing. Sometimes I am too open. Sometimes I like to put it out there. But sometimes people will act like they're okay with it until like is it Zadora? Like some people, what'd you say?
You just call me Dora.
Okay, Dora. Like she was saying, like people be like, let me finish. Or people they put on this facade that they're okay with it and then they're going to be your biggest supporters. But I've realized even in this short time of me getting to know people, they throw it in your face like it's something that you can help. So I don't know personally, because I'm just too open. And sometimes, like it says, even in this word, God's word, don't give your pearls to pigs. So I don't even know. Sometimes I find myself being too open and giving my testimony and giving my life to someone or to multiple people, thinking that they have my best interests at heart when they really don't. So that, is there even really a right time?
No, I wouldn't say it's the right time, because I've had like I'm like you. I'm really open with my mental issues that I have, my depression, anxiety, all that stuff. I am very open with it, and I tell myself I'm always open about it, because I know that there are people who are not able to talk about it, who are not able to be as vocal about it. So I've always been open about it, and like I said, I've had relationships where it was too much for them to handle. You can't, a lot of people can't handle someone who mentally shuts down. So me, from dating after that happened and dating before that happened, the issues I went through, I always, if I see where I'm going to be serious with, like if like the hypersexuality, if this is somebody who's just going to be a sex thing, and it's like, okay, it's not going to be anything but sex. It's like, okay, I really don't have to disclose this if it's going to be nothing but sex, because 9 times out of 10, if you're just like a booty call, I physically want to have sex with you. So I wouldn't have that big of an issue with shutting down most of the times. But if it's somebody who's going to be a long-term partner, and I feel that I see that this person is going to be someone in my life that I want to keep in my life, then I feel, when I just feel like, okay, now is the time, just put it all out there. It's like, okay, this, if you want to be with me, this is what you have to deal with. This is everything. Because like I tell people, I don't have any secrets from my husband, because when I got serious with him, I told him everything, even stuff I didn't want to tell somebody. I told him everything, because I'm like, this is what you're going to have to deal with. Are you mentally able to deal with this? And if you're not mentally able to deal with this, I won't be offended if you walk out the door, because this is a lot for any one person to have to deal with. And no lie, it's hard. But when you have someone who is truly on your team and truly on your side, it makes it so much easier. So it's just, you gotta.
I guess the portion I'm having trouble with is what you was about to say, is vetting. Kind of finding out who. I've learned that I used to be, for a little bit, as open as you guys were. Once I got talking about it, I didn't have an issue with it, until I ran across the wrong toxic person who threw it back in my face. You know what I'm saying? Fortunately, it wasn't in public. It was just between me and her. But it was enough to let me know where I stood with this person. And I saw how ugly people can be. Even when you think they can have, you know, the best intentions. I'm just going to politely disagree. I think you do have to kind of wait a bit before you expose someone to that bit of information, because it's like giving them the knife to stab you with. And you can't give everybody that knife in the beginning. You just can't. Some people will run away from it, like Lovely was saying. Some people will just be like, yes, I got this, you know, one up on them. And I found out pillow talk is a motherfucker. I found out some things you tell a person will go to another person. And that goes back to a previous conversation we had on a previous episode about confidentiality. But I'm trying to find that way, because I'm going to be honest with you. When that happened, it made discussing it that much worse, because I'm not good at discussing emotions already. So trying to express something that painful and trying to decipher if you're worthy of knowing this information is stressful within itself. And a lot of guys and a lot of women have that fuck it. Just like, you know what? Not even going to deal with this. And it creates like this rift where you really want to tell them, but you also don't want to make yourself that vulnerable because someone else misused this information. So that's the struggle I'm dealing with, of how do I communicate this in a way that I feel comfortable, you know what I'm saying? And when is like not necessarily enough time. When, I don't know. I guess that is the best way to put it. When is the best time to kind of discuss this?
It's really no best time.
Yeah.
Because you know, like she was saying how she was married for, I'm pretty sure it was a decent length of time, and they couldn't handle it. It's no.
Nah. Yeah. That, and so my husband would ask me over and over again, like, why are you just so comfortable with talking to people about it? Why are you so it amazes me, because he's an introvert. So things that I am openly ready to talk about, he didn't understand that. Yeah, it ain't easy to talk about it. I just do it because it frees me. So
for me, there were a lot of things that I was afraid to discuss, like having thoughts about sexual thoughts about children. That was one of those things that was hard for me. But then I realized after my counselor told me something, because you were saying it too. It's about how you have to, you can figure out people's MO if you just watch long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's MO at the time was, if we get into an argument, I got one up on you. I'm gonna bring this back up. And that was just because we both had toxic behavior. That was one of his toxic behaviors, to throw it back up in my face, or to I know at one point in time, because he had his own mental issues, his way of getting through his mental issues were to attack mine, to attack my wall, to bring it down. And I wouldn't have known that about him. And we were together, married for 5 years, going on 6. I wouldn't have known a lot. Like, the things I went through with him taught me something. You kind of really don't even you never know the right time. It's you gotta just pay attention to people's behavior. They show it, and you can't allow love or sex to cloud your eyesight, to cloud, because it's always there. It's always been there. But if you pay attention to someone's actions, their beliefs, they can't just say one thing and their actions show another. It's all in the action. You're going to know if this person is really for you and really on your team. You're going to know because they're going to show it. They're going to, even in the dating process, they're going to show it. You know?
Look, what's going on? If you haven't been listening to the Zayday podcast, what are you doing? Come follow me and the Zay gang. We're talking about conspiracies, pop culture, politics, and more. Don't be the only one not listening. Come see me. Zayday podcast. Your host, Zay Parker. I appreciate you.
So I guess your issue is not expressing enough, you say, or being open enough. My issue is being too open. And I could see all the red flags and still be like, you know what? I'm going to tell them this. Maybe it'll change their view, or maybe change how they feel, or maybe they'll treat me differently or treat me right if they know this about me, when that's not the case. When someone shows you who they are,
believe them.
It ain't fake. It's for real, for real.
So I want to just say some things. For number one, I went through this. I wouldn't say I was molested. I was almost molested. I think I was about 8 years old, and I stayed in apartments, and all the kids used to play kickball in these apartments. And these were the apartments that, you know, you had to walk into a door, and then they had 4 separate apartments. So, but it's this man that always used to outside watching us. But as freely as I am now, I was friendly like that as a kid. So I didn't think none of it. He used to always give us candy. But he paid particular attention to me and my god sister. And one day his wife or his girlfriend or whatever was gone, but she hated kids. I mean, she absolutely hated kids. Every time she came, we was like trying to figure out like, why the hell she so mean? But she was protecting us. Needless to say that I found out later. Well, long story short, we went this particular time, the guys had when I guess I don't know what happened to the boys that were playing, but he called us in his apartment. He's like, I got some more candy for y'all. We were like, okay, come on. You know, so my god sister, she left. When she got her candy, she left. He grabbed my arm and he was talking to me, and then he was like, lay on the ground, I want to show you something. And I'm like, okay, like what you trying to show me? So he was like, well, this gonna help you with kickball. So he laid me on the ground and he started to stretch me. And that was the first time I actually felt a man's penis. And mind you, this man was grown. And I felt all of his parts like laying on top of me. And then later I figured out that he was like, in a sense, he was grooming us. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to get us to get candy. He was trying to, you know, he was particularly paying attention to me. Because the way I'm shaped now, I was still shaped like that as a kid. That's why I pay a lot of attention to my little girls. Not so much what they have on, but we blessed at a young age. But anyway, so it wasn't nobody but God, because his girlfriend had came home like And he was like, and they was like, and I heard the kid was like, oh, she home, you better run. So I came out and she seen me come out and she stopped in her tracks and she like froze. And I didn't think nothing of it. I spoke and kept going, but it was really weird for me because I was like, I wonder why he invited me in this time. I wonder what he was trying to do. But long story, the next day they were cleared out. Found out, seen on the news probably like a week or so later, the man was a pedophile and they were looking for him. She was protecting us because she was protecting him. So she was trying to keep all the kids away from him because she was protecting him. And this man stayed in my apartment complex and didn't even know it. So that right there made me like almost like intrigued to know what that felt like again. Not so much I always wanted an older man. I always wanted to know what that feeling was. So I think that's where my triggers for hypersexuality came from. I started being really particular about a size. I wanted to feel what I felt at a young age, what that was, and for me, I didn't kind of pay attention to it. I just realized like, okay, maybe I just like sex, people just say it. But when people call me like a freak or, if you want to try this stuff, you a freak. I'm like, ew, like, no, I'm not. I'm a butterfly. I just want to, be free. That's how I looked at it. I didn't think about it as being hypersexual or just trying to just being curious. I never tied all of it together until later on in life when I got older. And then I realized that I started dating guys, and this had happened to them, two particular guys. The one, it happened to him by a woman, his mom's best friend, and the other guy I dated, it happened by his uncle, a man. So both of them equally being molested. One dealt with, I was older than him, and he clinged to me. And the other one, I always felt like he had to prove a point to me. And he used to bash me and he fought me with his words. He was very, abusive mentally and emotionally. But I realized that he didn't know how to deal with his trauma. The other guy, he doesn't even talk about it. Like, I think it's buried so deep that he don't realize that it happened no more. Whereas the other guy, it affected him mentally. Our relationship was horrible. It was the most toxic. It got to the point where I told him, like, I feel like if we get together, I feel like you'll kill me. You'll have deadbolt locks on the door. Like, I feel like our life would be, me and my daughter's life would be just in jeopardy because he was that crazy. He didn't know how to deal with anything. So I think when you think about, like, when you tell people, my husband don't know. My husband didn't know. I think I casually said something to him a couple weeks ago because me and Jeremy talked about it. And I was like, well, shit, if I can tell Jeremy about it, I might as well tell my husband that I'm married because I'm a private person. It's not really about me not being open or me keeping secrets. I just don't, I know people, like you said, and I know people don't handle stuff well. It wasn't about me not trusting my husband. I knew that something like this didn't happen to him, and my husband's another race. So how can he even comprehend, properly, or how would he be able to take it? You know what I'm saying? If a lot of men already don't know how to deal with these things or talk about it, how can he, put all this stuff together in words to even, what he gonna say? Sorry? You know what I'm saying? Or what is he gonna say? Like, how do you feel? I mean, I'm open to talk about it now because this is something that almost happened to me. You know what I'm saying? So I think you can feel the person out. And then I think it's also kind of false when people say they didn't know somebody's behavior. I know people, I can read people from the moment, I can tell you exactly how you are from the moment I meet you. I mean, I can tell you. And when I tell you, I've been like that my whole life. Malcolm will attest to it. I ain't fucking with you. If your energy bad, I'm not fucking with you. Like, I can feel when you bad. You know what I'm saying? And I think when people, that's our subconscious, like, saying, like, oh, I guess I'll give them another chance. Well, maybe they're not that bad. It's like God giving you a gazillion signs and you're not paying attention to it, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I think we as people, like, or just in general, we don't want to pay attention to it, or we want that person to be better than they already are. We want them to be like, I hope that they're good. You know what I'm saying? Or I hope that they can accept this because I really like them, kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't tell nobody. I think my mama used to ask me all the time as a kid, like, somebody touching you? But I think that was because we, we used to watch Law and Order all the time. So my mom used to always be like, somebody touching you every day. She'd be like, you ain't been touched, have you? And I'm like, nah, mom, I'm good. You know, and then another incident happened probably later on. My mom's boyfriend brother used to watch me and my little brother, and I'm a very protective person. And he was just weird as fuck, like weird. And I'll never forget like him trying to like touch me. He would like brush against me. And that's why I don't like people in my space. Like I think a lot of my reasons why I am with people, how I can read people, how I don't like people in my space, all that came from the shit that I went through as a child. And he was just always looking at us. And I ain't like that. So one day he like touched me and he was like trying to touch me and like pull my shirt. I'm like, what you doing? You don't supposed to do that. I tell my mama, you know, my mom was crazy as hell. So he knew when I said that to leave me alone. So I think that's what saved me. But he got really close one time before, you know, had the courage. You know, I was always vocal, but he got really close, you know what I'm saying, to where I knew it was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And later on, probably in my high school years, I saw him in Atlantis, which is the club. I don't know if you're from Mobile. Club in Mobile. Atlantis is just like the place you go when you turn 18. But I saw him and I told him, I was like, I remember what you did to me. And he laughed in my face. You know what I did? I hauled off and punched him in his fucking nose. And I was trying to kill him because like, oh, you know, like what you did. And he just laughed in my face. He was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then he whispered in something. He said, what did he say? I remember them purple shorts. So he said something like the clothes I had on. And it's like all I seen was red. You know what I'm saying? So luckily I had friends that were bouncers and they took his ass out, but I tried to kill him, needless to say. So that's when I realized I had the triggers, the flashbacks. You know what I'm saying? Because hell, I didn't even know what shorts I had on, but you remember that and you said that after all these years. I think I was like 6 or 7. You know what I'm saying? So but yeah, I think you already know people. I think that sorry, my kid's trying to get in the room and I don't want the muties. But I think that you already know people. I think we just try to see the good in people. Like offer it. We try to say like, damn, like I like this person. I hope they better than the last. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they can deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So just trust your instincts, y'all, because that's you know, that's a lie in a sense. Like you know what you know.
Yeah. I think we secretly seek for someone to accept us. And we want them to accept us so bad and accept what we have, the baggage we have and things we've been through that we do ignore it. So I do agree with that. But I do have a question for you, if you don't mind. Why do you say almost molested?
Because I feel like he didn't get to where he wanted to go, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Him touching me, I know in my mind that that's what molestation is somebody touching you without your consent. You know, because I teach my children, I have 2 girls. So I will never in my life like my kids. And that's I know what you're saying when you said you have thoughts about children. For me, I know my husband would never touch my kids, but I don't like my children to sit near, close to any man's legs, hands. You always gotta have these clothes on. Like, it's not about me not trusting my kids. It's me not trusting men in general. You know, and I know that's something I probably eventually need help with. But that's something that I've came to realization with. Even if I get counseling, I still don't want my damn girls around nobody. You know, it's men and women, because I know women are nasty. Like I said, I have an ex that was molested by a female, and I have an ex that was molested by a man. So I just don't like my kids around anybody. I watch everything. Like I'm that mom be like, where you going? What you doing? You know, that's me. Like I don't even want you playing with no other kids. I need to know who your mama is, what kind of color shirts. I make my kids memorize what they have on before they leave. And they 7 and they 3. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so much going on. And it's bigger than the sexual thing. It's bigger than anything. Like, don't be smiling too much. You know what I'm saying? And I hate that that's programmed in me because, like I said, I'm a social butterfly. I like to talk to everybody, and my kids got that. Well, one of them do. The other one, she a pit bull. She like, I don't know you. Don't talk to me. Whatever. But, and that's the little one. But, you know, I just think, I don't know. I always, like, even my daughter, she's like, when she was telling me that her dad bathes her, I'm like, girl, you old as hell. What you got him? She's like, because I asked him to do it, and he's so uncomfortable. Like, he'll call me. He was like, Lauren, she asked me to bathe her. Like, I don't know what's wrong with her. Like, why she want me to do this? Like, he didn't like changing diapers. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't even like to see her parts. And he could possibly have the triggers that you have. Like, I don't want to look at my daughter like this. So I want to, you know what I'm saying? And he don't know that, but he is completely uncomfortable. He still don't like it. You know?
That's how my ex, well, my husband is. He was molested as a child. And so I never.
And see, that's why he can't accept you. You know what I'm saying? That's why he doesn't know how to deal with it. It wasn't, you did nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't dealt with his issues. And even before you even told me that, I already knew that. You know what I'm saying? Because you can, just by some of the things that you said, sounds like somebody who's already been molested or something happened traumatic to them, simply because he kept resisting. Every time you push, he'll push back. And then he started to use things to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? People, those are true hurt people, but that's some deep hurt shit. You know, so that ain't something that do. That's not no surface stuff. That's something that's been buried, and just something that's just it needs to get out. And he fighting demons that he don't even know he got. You know what I'm saying? And until he eventually realized what it is, which he probably never will, because most men don't. You know what I'm saying? And that's I think our race in general is, you got to be strong. You can't deal with that. Which you smart. You know what I'm saying? You can't cry. You know, they program these men not to cry. They program these men to be, you know what I'm saying, harder. For what? You know what I'm saying? You need to cry. You know what I'm saying? You need to get that bass out your voice. Hold your damn head up. I tell my son that too. Like, what you got your head down for? Hold your head up. I tell my husband that when he feel like he did something wrong, what you looking down for? Look at me in my damn, you better hold your goddamn head up. I don't care how mad I am. You know what I'm saying? That's anybody. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like they need to cry. And like I said, my husband is Asian, so he didn't cry at all until probably we got together. Let that shit out. If you gotta cry, if I see some snot, let it out. Because I need you to breathe, get all that out, get all that ugly out, because that's, you know what I'm saying, that's emotion that needs to come out. You know what I'm saying? And they are triggered. Have you ever thought like your triggers was triggering him? You know what I'm saying? And he didn't know how to deal with that.
I think so. I really do. And I would even push for it, because I'm an open person. I say, hey, let's go get counseling together. See, when I support you, when I'm in your corner, I'm in your corner.
100.
You know?
Right.
And so I come from a family that said, you don't need to go to get no counseling. They always made me fear going to get counseling. Right. Like, your kid's going to get taken, this and that and the third. I still remember when it was exposed that my cousin, which was 16 years old, raped me. They pushed it under the rug. They covered it up. That's that, and they said, keep it in the family. No one needs to know about this. No one.
You know what's crazy about that? I always thought that shit was on TV, but I'm in this group on Facebook where it's just a safe haven for women, and to hear how many people have said that their families, their moms, their dads, girl. That's probably why I couldn't become no social worker, because I would probably go I would become a hitman. Like, I'm not even lying to you, because stuff like that, I feel like people needs to deal with that. Like, that's the reason we're the way we are. You know what I'm saying? People don't understand that that's in our DNA too. You know what I'm saying? And unless we are fighting against that, you know, it becomes a bigger picture. You know, and I think that's what it is. People don't want to realize that, oh my God, this happened to my child. I failed them. You know what I'm saying? They stop thinking about their child. They start to think about themselves when it's not about them. You know? And I think that's why, you know, a lot of these families can't deal with it, because when you start to deal with it, then you start to hear the mama and the grandmama and the aunt say, well, it happened to me and I'm fine. You know what I'm saying?
That's what happened in my family.
Right. And you don't
my mom, my aunt.
Yeah. And they'll be like, well, you see, I'm fine, but you don't realize that you had 25 cousins and nephews and stuff that your uncle then realized that these was like pimps and sense to them. You know what I'm saying? These are people that was like grooming them or just constantly having them around. You know what I'm saying? They didn't realize that behavior until you started to fight against it, until you realize that shit, this is wrong, and this is, you know what I'm saying, I'm fucked up. I need to figure this out. And nothing is wrong with me. I just need help. You know what I'm saying? So if you open that can of worms, then they're going to open the same can of worms. And they ain't trying to do that. They already lived it, survived it. They don't want to open that can of worms.
Oh, they ain't even trying to open. I was shunned from the family. I know the family doesn't talk to me. You know, that's why I told y'all in the beginning, I had an alias for my book because I didn't want to be sued for exposing all the gulk and nastiness and stuff in my family. The fact that they looked at me, and even me I was trying to discuss it. The same person that raped me was the same person that criticized someone else for raping their little sister and made it seem like he did nothing to me. And I would talk to my mom. I would say, Mom, my mom told me before she died last year, my mom said, they do not like you. You know why your aunt doesn't like you? And I said, why? And she said, Brittany, because you up here helping people on Facebook. You're telling people about the fact that you were raped. And she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that because you're exposing her son.
And
he didn't go to jail. So
and now it's too late for him to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? And that's the sad part about it is he got away with it. What you mad about it now? You got away with it. You know, but that's the thing that comes down is when it's in the family. You know what I'm saying? You just said his daughter same thing happened to his daughter. It's like it's in the family. And if y'all not fighting again, that's a bad devil to have in your blood. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really feel like stuff can be so embedded in your genes and your DNA and in, you know what I'm saying, in your family that shit starts to rub off, you know, unless you fight against it and you just was strong enough to do it. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say that you would have never became one of them, but who's to say if you would have just wanted to end your life because you kept fighting your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't fight your thoughts anymore because you knew that's not something that you wanted to act on. You know what I'm saying? So I applaud you for being so strong and so courageous because that shit ain't easy. You know, and like I told you, I've been married to my husband since December. And it wasn't until I think, like I said, me and Jeremy talked about it a couple weeks ago that I was like, well, let me casually say this. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We still haven't had that conversation because I feel like I'm dealing with it and I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? I'm open. I have my triggers. I already told him about my triggers. I didn't tell him where they came from. You know what I'm saying? So, but I feel like that may be a conversation that I need to, you know what I'm saying, I need to have. I'm telling the world, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, in general, I mean, it really takes a person. I just know that for me, I married somebody and I still don't want to tell them. So I think it depends on the person. You know, you said that you're an open book. I'm an open book too, but I'm very private. Like, Malcolm been knowing me since probably sixth grade. He didn't know all this, so he probably just a shock to y'all. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, because I don't act like nothing happened to me. I brush stuff off and I keep it moving. But it wasn't until my husband seen me have a nervous breakdown when he realized I wasn't as strong. It wasn't until my mom seen that I have a nervous breakdown and she was like, oh shit, she really not as perfect as she seemed. You know? And that's where I say the triggers, I agree with you wholeheartedly, the smells, the triggers, because I think that could be why I'm attracted to dark-skinned men. This man was dark chocolate, black as 2 a.m. with some good hair. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I remember how he looked vividly. You know, and it was almost in a sense like I was looking for him at one point in my life because I was trying to figure out who the hell he was. Mm. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it sucks. But, I mean, I feel like if I see him to this day, I would probably fall out and I wouldn't know what to do. You know, I'll probably turn to that little girl again, or I probably haul off and punch his ass. I mean, who knows? Because my emotions. But yeah, I think it was the whole thing about it. It has made me defensive. It has made me, in a sense, I won't say not trust men because I don't feel like men are the issue. It makes me watch people more. And I think that's at that age, at a young age, it made me start to look at people every which way, from the way they look at you, the way they mannerism, the way they move it. So I think it made me more aware. So I don't know if that has happened to you, but it made me way more aware of my surroundings. And like I said, if you know me, if you done been around me, you can be like, damn, Lauren, she might seem like she crazy, but she ain't tell you no lie. Everything that I tell somebody how I'm feeling, it be the truth. And they call me and they be like, damn, you was right, friend. I should have listened. Hey, they ain't got nothing to do with me. I told you what it was. You know what I'm saying? So I think it just made me more aware. But I probably do need some counseling one day. Just not today.
I think we all lucky.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw the ball to Katie real quick. I know you wanted to say something and couldn't really get to you. Katie.
I'm here. All right. Hey, first of all, Blazing, you look familiar, and I don't know where I know you from, but I used to live in Mobile, so I just want to say that. Because you had popped up on here, and I was like, I know this girl.
You're so funny.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say to y'all, like, I am so excited that you guys are so comfortable with talking about these things, like, because a lot of people are not comfortable enough to, like, actually talk about stuff like that. And, Jeremy, that's your name. So when you asked the question and you were just like, when is the right time to tell somebody? And Blazing just kept saying, like, I think both of them kept saying, like, there's no specific time to tell somebody, or the time is just never right. You just gotta go with your gut, And it's funny because I just feel that it's not the time, but it's how comfortable you are. And so when you're already not really comfortable to talk about it, then telling somebody else is going to, like, give you this big type of insecurity that you were never asking for. And then it's going to shy you away from wanting to tell anybody else. Because like you said, you're already not comfortable talking about it, let alone telling somebody about it, trying to confide in somebody. And honestly, Jeremy, as a Black man, you can't. And it sucks because Black men don't really have people to vent to. And so you try to vent to people whom you feel love you the most, like your girlfriend or your wife or, something like that. But what they do is they just throw it back in your face and then make you feel insecure and stupid and gross and just like all types of shit like that or whatever. And it really sucks, but I feel like everybody needs somebody to talk to. So really sorry to hear about that, but you ain't need that bitch anyway.
Right.
And when it came to me,
I knew it was coming, y'all. I knew it. I knew
she was the wrong one.
And like, honestly, when it came to me, the only time I told a guy was when I felt like we were taking that next step. Not like marriage or nothing, not that fast. Like these ain't no big steps, they kind of small. But we were taking steps, So it was like I was like from an inch, like a half inch. So, just taking little small steps going on up, you feel me? And, I was just like, hey, just want to let you know that if you ever see me around here crying, breaking down, feeling kind of weird, don't want you to touch me sometimes, this is why. And I just go from there because number one, I'm comfortable with talking about it. But the funniest part about it is that hearing you guys talk about it actually made me kind of uncomfortable to talk about it. And why? I have no fucking idea. But when I'm talking to people who never been through it, it's easier for me because I always wanted to help people through it. So I'm just like, yeah, I've been through it. You can get through it. We can do it together and then go get ice cream. Like I'm just that type of person. Like, let's just try to get it and get past it and just try to just go from here, And so people used to always ask me like, why you always smiling? If you've been through this and been through that, you always smiling, you always happy, you always this, you always and I'm like, what the fuck do you want me to be? What do you want me to be? What? Do you want me to be sad, depressed in the corner? Do you want me to be crying every goddamn day? Do you want me to come to school looking fucking stupid with my hair fucking everywhere and stuff? Like, oh my God, what was me? What the fuck do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Okay, let me know what you want me to do, and I will come to school tomorrow and do it. But then, do you want to know what the fuck they say? Not a goddamn thing. Cause what the fuck you gonna say? Oh my God, that girl's so crazy. Cause she be smiling stuff like some kind of psycho. No, bitch, I ain't no motherfucking psycho. I am a
So have you thought that it was easier for you to help somebody else? Or I'll say this: have you thought that talking about it with us makes you comfortable? Because have you not dealt with it? You kind of dealt with the surface of it. You see what I'm saying?
I think the reason why it makes me uncomfortable with you guys talking about it is because It was right here. Let me go grab it. Give me 1 second.
Grab
It
it,
was
girl.
Please, Kitty. I think that thing right there in the front.
Is that where it is? Okay, so I think it makes me uncomfortable, not because you guys are comfortable talking about it, but just because I've never been around genuine people who went through things. And
it makes a whole hell of a difference, for sure.
A whole hell of a difference. Because the people that I've talked to about it, because I didn't start figuring these things out till I was in college. And this stuff happened to me anyway, so like in college. So that was a very long time after what happened, you know. So the people that I talked to in college, my friends, they used to always want to top you. So it's not like they never wanted to have that discussion about it. They just wanted to have a competition about it. Like, oh, well, this happened to you. Well, this is what happened to me. That plus this plus that, and guess what? I get the rape award. Like, bitch, no, like this is not a competition.
But what I had to learn, like I said, I guess that's why I haven't told so many people, and I guess that's why I haven't even spoke in the group that I told you about that I'm on Facebook, is because I feel like these people are telling their story, but it's a thin line between wanting sympathy and wanting to say, well, look, this is what happened to me. Look at me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like they're still not dealing with it. They're just saying it out loud, which has, you know, which entails have let them breathe a little bit better. But they're not dealing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, like you said, they wanted to one up you, or, you know, they wanted to be in competition of who got touched the most or whatever, is because they're not dealing with it. That could have been a defense mechanism for them. You know what I'm saying? So let me try to do this. Let me tell you about this. Ooh, let me do this about this. Let me tell you about this day. Because it could be how they cope with things. You know what I'm saying? I learned that people do different things with triggers and different coping mechanisms, you know, in order to deal with things day to day. You know what I'm saying? Just like you said, you smile and ask me and say, let's go get some ice cream. We done talked about it, cried, let's go move on. You deal with it by not dealing with it. You deal with it by talking about it, say what you need, and then you don't dwell. You see what I'm saying? You don't go out, you don't try to be deep. You deal with the surface and what's there, you know, to get it out and say it, because the more you say it, the better it'll get one day. And maybe one day you'll be able to just be as raw as possible. You know what I'm saying? But today ain't the day, and we ain't gonna make you do this shit. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't gonna ask you to do this shit. You know what I mean? But as much as you want, I mean, when you talk about it, it'll get easier. You know, for me, like I said, listening to y'all, I'm like, damn, well, maybe I do need therapy. Talking about it out loud, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't really hit the surface. I mean, I already know how raw it is, but it doesn't bother me because I feel like I've overcame so much. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have a different coping than most people. Like for me, I don't know what my coping mechanism is. I think it's like cleaning up with somebody.
I feel like I'm not good with names, forgive me. But I feel like a lot of your ways of coping with it was how my mom coped with it. And I mean, that's your way of coping, but I could tell you what it feels like from a daughter being in that same it doesn't feel good. And I wanted to tell you this when you were talking about it. It doesn't feel good because you know what it does? It creates the same cycle inside of her. And she may never go through being raped and molested, but she'll have that fear of being raped and molested, and she'll live her life like that. Let me make sure
You're so true. You're so right.
And let me make sure I do this. Let me make sure I do that. This is the way mama raised me. I got to do this right, or this is going to happen. And it creates this fear and this generational curse in her, this generational cycle, that because this happened to mom, this got to be something that she might not know what happened to you, but I'm telling you, she's going to know something happened to you.
Right. And I agree with you because I know talking to my pastor, it's crazy you say that. I talked to my pastor about something because I think my pastor was molested, and he talks about he was talking about how much I love my kids. You know, he was talking about you got to let go. he was like saying that the things that you're trying to teach her not to do, you're gonna put that in the universal something. You're gonna make something happen to her, something that you praying. You know what I'm saying? It was not that he's saying it was gonna happen, but he was saying that if you keep putting it out there and keep making her so aware or keep making her so nervous about certain things, that you're gonna bring it into fruition in a sense. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't feel you, but I get what you're saying. You know, I know what he was trying to say. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I let her be a kid. I let her dance. I let her do all of that stuff. I'm still ain't gonna never let my kid be that pop locking and dropping, because I know for me when I was a kid, I ain't do all that pop locking and dropping in front of my damn mom. I would have got knocked upside the head, you know. So I think for me, when it comes to her clothes, I still teach her about the specifics, you know, just the crossing the legs, being mannerable, you know, just being a little girl, you know, but I never take away saying, oh, well, you can't wear this because you're going to look, you know, men are going to look at you. But I do tell her to keep her damn tongue in her mouth. She does this thing with her tongue and it freaks me the fuck out. I don't know what it is, but it freaks me out. I'm like, dude, like, keep your damn tongue in your mouth. But it freaks me out, and I know that's probably one thing I do need to stop telling her, but it freaks me out. So I just make sure she got her tongue in her mouth. I don't know, I guess, you know, it take me back to college when, you know, you used to type like, you know, I just, you know, it just, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, because I don't want to make her, like you said, make it seem like it's a routine, like, oh, mama's coming, can't do this, can't do that. You know, I don't want her to think like that. So I get what you're saying. And I'm working on it. I feel you. Thank you for that. See, transparency. I receive it. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it.
You welcome, honey bun. You know, I call people honey bun, so sorry.
It's okay. Look, I'm from the South, and you was either gonna be sugar baby, honey, something that's sweet.
Well, did anyone have any other questions or anything? Like, because this is an open forum, and another thing, I want to make sure everybody gets their point out. So let's make sure that I understand we might get passionate about it, but let's make sure we don't overlap each other when each other is speaking. Let everybody, you know, get their whole thought out. Because I know how it is. My mind be scattered, like, and if I get cut off, a lot of times it's hard for me to come back to it because I forgot about it because you didn't say something really cool. So allow everybody to get their whole thought out, though.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
When I heard the topic, initially my mind was somewhere else, but after hearing everybody else speak, it adds a level or a layer to basically what happened with me. I was in a 5-year relationship with my kid's dad, and you know, it was domestic violence was a big part of it. But at the very end of the relationship, every time we would break up and get back together, he would always use something to say, oh, I want my family back, or he would find a way to try to get back in there. Well, the very last thing that he used to try to get me back was, one, telling me of all the women that he slept with, basically clearing the air. And the other thing, yes, I do have kids. I have 2 boys, 6 and 7. But yes, the last thing was that he told me he was touched by his older brother when he was younger. At the time, I admit, I thought he was using it as a bargaining chip. I don't know if he really went through that. But my initial thing was he was trying to abuse my emotional state at the time to try to get us back. Because I had been staying in a domestic violence shelter and everything. That was like the last straw. This is the time where I finally moved out. I moved out of the house that was in my name that I was paying for, and went and stayed at domestic violence shelter for 2 or 3 months while I was pregnant with my other son. And he used that as a bargaining chip, and I almost fell for it. But now I'm realizing that there could be some truth to the story, because like we all just said, hurt people hurt people. So it does explain some things that were happening within our relationship, but not everything. I can say that if it was true, that it definitely adds a layer to his personality, and also how he navigated through relationships after me.
So I'm just glad you guys kind of brought that to my attention. Yeah, I kind of thought it was a cry for help at that point, but he was also the type, every time we would break up, he would cry, and it was the cry where there were no tears. So I never knew if it was sincere or not. I was a sucker. I see a man break down, hold his head down and sound like he's crying. I'm crying too. I'm bawling eyes crying. So, the first couple times it happened, I was all there for it. But after it kept happening, every time I broke up with him and left, he would do that shit and get me back. Like, no, you can't keep using that. But now I do think that it could have been a cry for help. I just feel like his hurt me so to where it was best for us to part ways, for both of us to get the healing that both of us need. I don't know if he got his, but I know I'm getting mine. And the fact that I have the kids, I feel like my healing was more essential for them than anybody. So I'm just gonna put that out there and continue.
I wanted to say something to you. That was his trauma that affected his life. And the only reason I'm saying that, the way he interacted with you was his trauma. The things that happened to him, even down to the fact of him not being able to show actual tears when he's crying, that's all a part of his trauma. Manipulation, promiscuous, manipulation at its finest, because in our trauma, we learn how to manipulate. Someone manipulated him, took advantage of him. So in his head, right, like Blazion said, he adapted to that manipulation. And he learned that this is how I can get her to stay, by manipulation, because this is the only way I know how to show love. So it's all trauma. Everything is tied to some type of trauma, that inability to express emotions. Because I even do it sometimes, where someone manipulated me. So in order for me to get what I want, to get what I need, I fall into manipulation. Now I'm more aware, and I'm like, nah, that's manipulation. I gotta stop that. I gotta correct myself. He's not aware that he does it though. We think that people are aware and they just trying to run game on us. But no, you can subconsciously do something and not realize you're doing it.
I feel that 100% is like just waking up to it and recognizing it for what it is. And some people aren't there yet. And that's just the reality of it. And hopefully having these open dialogues will help people pursue those strands of thought, when they arrive, and not just brush it off to the side. Before we shut it down tonight, did anybody have any other comments or questions, or just, Malcolm, what you got, bro?
Okay, here I go. Hello, everybody. All right, so earlier this week, I told Jeremy, I said, bro, I don't think I need to be on here, bro. I don't think I got nothing going on. So, about to be transparent, nobody ever has known what I'm about to say except for my ex-wife. And that ties into the whole throw it back. This going to tie into the whole throw it back at me type situation. It's just something, y'all know my story. We talked about my story very first episode 1 of cheating, of SquadGoals. So when I was I might have been about 9, there was a guy that stayed across the street from me. Ain't too many of y'all been in my house except for Lauren, but outside of my road, there's houses. And I used to, his dad used to come in our yard and catch raccoons and possums and stuff like that, because we live like in the forest, like with Snow White now, when all the animals come out and stuff. So, I used to go over to their house and play the video game and stuff. And he touched me one time and then told me to touch him. And I just brushed it off as I went through life, you know, didn't say a thing about it, never told my mama, never told my dad, and never told my sister, never told anybody. And he might have been like 13 or so. And I remember, and this ties into what y'all was saying about time and the important person. I remember telling my ex-wife when I felt like we were getting to that point, like, okay, we finna go far. And I remember telling her, and she even told me about the time that she had with a female, which explains why we ended up where we were to this point right now in life. So, anywho, it would be something to where she would throw it back at me in an argument. Or when she admitted that she slept with a female in our marriage, and of course I became disdainful about it, and y'all know the story, you know, how I just never got over it because it was just still prevalent, where she would try to bargain it to the point of, well, you had that situation, what makes you different than me? So that was tough. And I even look at a situation that happened with an older female. It's probably why I like older females. So the young lady that went to my church, this is somebody that I still know. Like, was this at their house probably about 2 weeks ago. Somebody I still know. I remember we were sitting in church, not in the sanctuary, but in the other hall, where they have repasts and food and gatherings and stuff. And she sat by me and she put her hand on my leg, and she was like, and I was just sitting there. She was like, "You like that, don't?" And I was like, you know, I really, you know, I just smiled because I was like, "Oh, a woman touched me." You know what I'm saying? I remember my mama looking at the corner of her eye like, "This bitch." You know what I'm saying? I remember that. So as much as I was thinking about telling Jeremy earlier, I was like, yeah, I belong in this conversation. Now, did I become kind of promiscuous after I got older? Yeah. I wasn't out there, but I was out there. You know what I'm saying? But it would be with people that I knew. No males, but a lot of female. You know what I'm saying? Females. It would be people that I knew. But I guess I didn't realize that was a thing for me in my own personal life. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's all I had to say. I'll be quiet now. I feel like I say a lot.
No. Like I said, it's a matter of transparency. Honestly, this is how we save the world, bro. Straight up. It's how we save lives and save the world, just by conversation and just being honest with ourselves enough to call a spade what it is, you know. So this was a much needed conversation. I didn't expect this conversation to go as long as it did, but I think it went as long as it should have. So lovely. We would love, no pun intended, to have you back. I'll definitely link up with you again, you know, just see what your schedule's like, because you definitely offered a lot of insight, and we appreciate transparency, you know, allowing people to heal through conversation. So thank you for taking time out your day.
You're welcome. And I want to thank y'all, because I don't see a whole lot of men that are willing to open up about their abuse and where they're at in life. And that Black men, let me say that, there aren't a lot of Black men that I've encountered that are willing to open up and be transparent about them life. I don't want y'all to stop that. I want y'all to keep being like real and open, because the stigma out here is that Black men have to be strong. Black men can't tell their brokenness.
Right.
And it should be normalized. It should be a thing. There is strength in sharing about your weaknesses. And a lot of people don't know that. So I just want to thank y'all, because just seeing that just gives me a whole new outlook. Like, there are some Black men out here that are trying to fight against the norm.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. That means more than you know. And to anybody who is watching this video, I'm going to include in the description some of the links where you can go and discuss traumatic events like this with counselors. There are certain programs that do allow you to speak with a counselor for free. I just found out about it not long ago through a conversation with Malcolm, and it was brought back to my attention while doing my research for this episode. I did homework, y'all. But again, this has been your boy, Sir, SquadGoals. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.